when I look at all the clients that I've worked with who've raised money in different ways and hit these different barriers, what we often see is that the reason why they've hit the barriers is because there are four basic mistakes that people are making, four basic assumptions that they think about fundraising, and that those assumptions fundamentally hold them back from their ability to maximize the amount of money they can raise. Okay, so let me just quickly walk you through what these four basic mistakes are. The first one is that they think they are funding a product when they should be thinking about funding an idea. Okay, now this is an absolutely fundamental and very, very common misconception that nearly every social entrepreneur that I work with has at the beginning. And so I'm going to come back to this later and really spend a lot of time on this, okay? But I just wanted to flag with you right now what I think is a fundamental problem that people have. They think they are selling a product, not an idea, right? You know, so, but actually it is the idea which is what investors want to back, not the product, okay? So you think you're selling a workshop, but actually you're selling a different way of doing education. You think you're selling a wheelchair, but actually what you're selling is a different way of bringing wheelchair solutions to a public that needs it. Okay, this is a bit abstract, but I will come on to this in just a moment. You know, you think you're running a consultancy, but actually what you're doing is you're bringing a new view of how the economy should work to the market, right? What matters is the idea at the core, not the product. The product is just a manifestation of the idea, right? And products are not interesting for investment, but ideas are deeply interesting. So what I want to do is I want to help you find the very best articulation of your idea so that you can fundraise for that in the best possible way. The second mistake that I see people making is that they're trying to fundraise for everything that they do in one go, right? So I've got this organization and we're selling here and we're educating there and we run this and we work with those people, okay? And what you're saying to yourself is, I've got to raise $2 million so that I can fund all of that now, okay? And there's at least two mistakes that's being packed into that. The first is that you don't have to fundraise for everything, right? There are bits you can fundraise for and bits that can be fundraised separately and so on. So you can break it out. The second mistake that's made is it doesn't all have to happen at once, right? So people set themselves this huge hurdle. I've got to raise $1 million, right? When in fact they could break it out into much smaller units of capital and spread that out over time in a way that suits you, not the investor, okay? So you don't have to fundraise for everything, and you don't have to fundraise for everything in one go, right? So there's two mistakes that are just packed into that. We're going to explore all of these in detail in just a moment. So I just want to flag these with you at the beginning. And then a third major barrier that people have is that they think that they're looking for just one type of funding, right? I just got to raise equity and I'm done. Or I just got to get the perfect grant and I'm done, right? And actually, if you do that, you're missing out on all the different ways that you could be raising money in different ways. Raise grants for this, but raise equity for that. Get this sponsored, but do that, you know, and so on. So you actually have a whole range of different ways that you could be raising funding, and you should be tapping out on every single one of them, not picking the single magic bullet that's going to solve all of your funding problems, right? So again, we're going to talk a bit about that in just a moment. And then finally, the most fundamental mistake is not targeting the right funder for you. So many people, when they're going out looking for funding, they don't actually know who they should be asking for. They don't have a very clear idea of exactly who the funder is, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to target in on exactly the right funder for your project, right? And have a very scientific strategy for bringing this together. So these are the four basic mistakes, you know, and there's lots of mistakes that are kind of compounded inside these. But in my experience, 80% of the people that I see who have struggled to raise finance are doing so because they're stuck on one, if not more, of these different ideas, right? And they're making these mistakes.